Okay. I think everything is working okay. I'm going to assume that that everyone can hear me okay. If not, someone just post in the comments and just let me know if there's any problems. But otherwise, welcome to this, my second live stream. And just before getting to sort of like the Q&A part, I just want to do a quick bit of housekeeping. Hey, Stan Cooper, how are you doing there, mate? So first, little bit of housekeeping. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to someone who supported the channel financially. So a guy called Drew. So that was my first ever donation that I received for this channel. So I just wanted to give a big shout out. Thanks a lot, Drew. I really appreciate that. If I've got time later on, I'll talk a little bit about what I'll do with any sort of donations, because I thought it's worth being quite transparent about. Yeah, if anybody wants to donate money towards the channel, then what I'm going to do with that. So I'll talk about that later on. Also, on the previous stream, talked about that I was going to disclose any retreats that I was going on, so that if anybody decided they wanted to be on the same retreat, then you'd know which ones I was going to. So the next one I'm going to be going on is in Spain, in Valencia, Spain, on the 24th of January. I'm going back to Ayahuasca Spirit with Shaman Wheeler and with Tamara. And yeah, doing another weekend retreat there. I think it's actually booked up solid, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's the retreat I'm going on. So if anybody wants to check that out, go and look on Ayahuasca Spirit. They've got a page on Facebook. You can contact them that way. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that retreat. There's a couple of interesting things about it. The first one is that, as well as ayahuasca, I'm going to be doing San Pedro at that retreat. And it's been a couple of years since I've done San Pedro, so I'm looking forward to doing that again. And the other thing about it is that I'm actually going to be on this retreat with a guy I've just spoken to recently, Dr. James Cook. You can see that there's a video on my channel, a big sort of really good lengthy conversation I had with James. He's a neuroscientist. And yeah, he'll be on this retreat as well. And that'll be the first time he's trying ayahuasca. So it's going to be interesting to see what he makes of that. And I don't know what, I'm sure we'll do some sort of collaboration, as part of that retreat, or might do a live stream where we can do sort of like a Q&A with Wheeler, with the shaman. So I'm working out a few ideas of stuff to do there, but that's what's coming up. Also, I just wanted to talk about people I'm going to be doing conversations with in future. I've lined up a chat with a guy called Dan Cleland. Now, Dan's a really interesting character. He is currently the owner of the Soltara retreat, which is based in Costa Rica. And previous to that, he was the creator and owner of what was called Pulse Tours, which became Arcana. And so I was kind of interested to talk to the person who sort of creates these retreats, who goes into the jungle and like builds one of these centers, builds all this infrastructure. So Dan has done this twice, and I thought, yeah, he'll be a very interesting guy to talk to. Someone from the Western world who kind of went into South America, built this huge, retreat complex, did it once, then he sold that one. He sold Pulse Tours, which then became Arcana, and then went and did the whole thing again. So yeah, I thought that was be an interesting story to talk to there. So that's coming up in the new year. Now, I don't know if anyone's got any sort of questions. You can just put it in the comments. But I did have a question that came in from Reddit, so I'll deal with this one first. And if anyone has any questions that you ask prior to this stream, then I do have a subreddit which you can find a link to in the banner on my channel. So if you go there, you can click there and just post any questions, and I'll answer them on the next live stream. But this one came in from someone I was on retreat with previously, a guy called Lee. And yeah, Lee, I hope you're doing all right, mate. So the question I'll just read out the question. It says, when we were on the ayahuasca retreat a few months back, the shaman seemed to have a dim view of smoked DMT. I'm not sure if that was the substance itself or using it without the presence of a shaman. Personally, I found DMT very therapeutic with the same positive aspects as ayahuasca, although my experience with both is admittedly limited. I wonder if you have any perspective on the shamanic view and what your view is of smoked DMT, this is a great question. So cheers, Lee. Yeah, this is, I think, it's an interesting question, because I definitely lean more towards this kind of doing things through the sort of traditional shamanic practices. But I also have my own practices, which I do at home, and DMT is one of these. And I found smoked DMT incredibly useful. In fact, I would say it is the catalyst that set me off down this whole medicine path. Because I think like most people, I dabbled with sort of drugs and psychedelics and stuff when I was a teenager, and in a completely a setting that wasn't planned at all. Doing it in like sort of kind of not the best places, certainly not anywhere you're going to get the kind of benefit from them. And I would like kind of talk out more if a teenager came to me, like, so if I came to me as a teenager and was saying like, should I do LSD or whatever, I'd probably try and talk them out of it. I think at that age you don't get the best out of these things. But then I had this huge like sort of like 15-20 year break, and then I got hold of some DMT, and I was kind of I heard about it from I think the Joe Rogan podcast, and so I thought, okay, this sounds he's talking about all these alien meeting with entities and stuff, and I thought, yeah, this sounds interesting. So I tried it, and it just completely changed my entire sort of worldview. Very within like the space of one evening, and it helped me get over some stresses. At the time I was really stressed out from work. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of fear of dying at the time. And yeah, my experience with sort of smoked DMT just completely opened my eyes to what was possible, and was very beneficial to me. So it did have a medicinal effect on me. And it was funny because I wasn't looking for a medicinal effect. I didn't realize it was going to help me but it did. Now, if you ask most shaman about this, like, should I do psychedelics at home? They will probably say, no, you should only do it in the presence of a shaman. And I don't particularly agree with that. I think there is a place for doing stuff within a ceremonial setting, and I think there's huge benefits to doing it within a ceremonial setting. But there's also huge benefits to doing it, to doing some things just on your own, or just within your own home, or within your own sort of setting. So I got a lot from doing my own sort of exploration with DMT. I certainly get a lot from doing my own exploration with things like mushrooms. Something like ayahuasca, I wouldn't do on my own. I think that is one thing that really does benefit from the ceremonial setting, the sort of the structure that comes with it. So I don't know. I hope that answers your question. I would say for smoked DMT, I don't think it needs to be done with a shaman. I would say that's true for pretty much any psychedelic bar ayahuasca. Although that said, I think if you can do it with a shaman, then there is a benefit to doing that. But I don't think it's sort of necessary. I think ayahuasca opens you up so much more that it needs that extra bit of guidance, that extra bit of structure to it. Cheers, mate. So anyway, to everyone who's watching, hello. It's DMT Truth. Dexter, hello. Glad you could join us. So I think I'll stick with that topic of DMT and sort of go into that a bit more, because I'm looking at the next few videos I do. I'm going to be actually focusing a lot more on DMT. In fact, the next one I'm about to publish, which will probably be done in like a day or so, is all about the kind of the visions that you get within DMT. And what I find is that the visions within DMT are different to how they are in say in ayahuasca, or with San Pedro, or with LSD or something. There's something to those DMT visions, and usually DMT is so fast and so rapid and so intense that I think people don't tend to spend a lot of time actually sitting and interpreting those visions. You do with ayahuasca, you do a lot. After you come out of it, you have like a group show, usually in the morning, and people spend time, sometimes even weeks, really breaking down these visions and talking about what's going on within them. But I don't think DMT gets that same thing. People just kind of tend to do it and just go, whoa, that was like intense. That was crazy stuff going on. And I don't know if there's as much analysis that goes on there because it is so rapid and so out there and cosmic. So the next video I'm doing is one where I sort of really break it down. And I think also there's a thing there with DMT is that because it's so cosmic and so sort of bizarre, that people don't think there's actually anything of value. There's anything to interpret within those visions. It's just like, wow, that's just crazy shit. And I don't think that's true at all. I think I'm of the opinion that everything that you see in these visions is you. It's coming from you. Just like with a dream, although dreams can seem very random, really it's a reflection of your own subconscious. So that's how I also perceive the DMT stuff. Whatever you see, whether you're seeing, aliens or angels or, cosmic networks of transmutation and all sorts of stuff, it's saying something about you. So my next video is sort of really dissecting all that sort of symbology within there. And I get some, there's a lot of the stuff I see in DMT is very constant. There's a lot of like very reoccurring themes that go on. But I'm going to talk about all this in the next video. So that's one I've got coming up. I'm also going to do one based around the sort of, for want of a better term, the darker side of psychedelics. I think I've seen a lot of posts online recently with sort of people, looking for help and like sort of seeming they'd not had the best experience and they were sort of confused, sort of feeling a bit lost by what was going on. So I think part of this is that there's not enough information or good enough information about what can happen with these things. Like people all talk about like, talking to aliens or, things being very, very awesome. And that's certainly a part of it, but things can be very disturbing as well. That there is a part of these experiences which can really sort of shake you to your core. So that's something I'm going to be talking about in a future video. And I think probably in this December period, I'm just going to do like a series of stuff and particularly focus it around sort of DMT. I mean, that was one idea that I had was sort of compartmentalizing my sort of videos into certain things, like doing a series on DMT and then maybe doing a series on like San Pedro, because I felt like I've talked a lot about ayahuasca and not so much about some of the other things. One thing I've definitely not talked too much about is mushrooms, which I had an experience with just this weekend that I'll talk about in a moment. But also, if anyone's got any questions or anything you want to ask, by the way, just post it in the comments. Let's have a quick look what's in there now. So just to discover your channel recently, keep up the good work. Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for the support. It's always, it's great to be able to sort of to communicate back with you guys. So yeah, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I've been up to this weekend. So I don't know if any of you guys listen to the Sam Harris podcast. I'm a huge fan of Sam Harris's stuff. And for those of you who don't know, Sam Harris is a famous neuroscientist and author. And he's big on meditation and also very open about sort of his psychedelic experiences in his youth. And then recently he posted a podcast where after like a 25-year break, he did the sort of heroic dose, the 5 grams of dried mushrooms in the dark. And he talks about his experience and how he had this absolutely sort of mind-blowing experience following the very sort of the standard Terence McKenna sort of method. And for those of you who don't know, that's 5 grams dried mushrooms in dark, no music, it's sort of no sort of sensory inputs at all. It's just you completely in the dark, and basically you're just facing your own subconscious, whatever's internally going on with you, just kind of manifests out. And this was something I'd heard Terence McKenna talk about, and it was something I sort of always thought, like, this is something I need to do at some point as a sort of, as someone who considers themselves a psychonaut. So yeah, after listening to Sam Harris, I figured this was the weekend I was going to try it. So yeah, Friday night, I went into a sort of a dark room. I got a blindfold, pitch black room, completely silent, no sounds or anything. And this is very unusual for me. Normally I love listening to music when I'm having a psychedelic experience. To me, it's just like, it's part of it. It's such a big part of it is the music you're listening to and how you get that sort of 3D kind of sound. So I was quite anxious about the prospects of just being there in complete silence, just my own thoughts. I was almost kind of like scared of what would come out of my head. Anyway, so I took the mushrooms. Yeah, I had a very weird experience. It was, first of all, I think that the mushrooms that I took weren't actually strong enough. I took 5.5 grams, and I've definitely had stronger mushroom experiences. But it felt really weird. It was really mind-fucky. I wasn't getting so much. I was seeing some stuff, but not the strongest visuals I've ever had. But I was having a very weird kind of, who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be thinking about here? Is this me? Am I, I was having these kind of like almost existential crisis-y kind of moments. And like, I kept thinking, like, what am I supposed to be thinking about here? Like, it was, very, like, that's the only way I could describe it. It's like a very mind-fucky experience. And I don't think it was the full 5 grams. I think, like, as I say, the mushrooms I had may have lost a bit of potency somewhere. So I'm going to try that again at some point. But it was a good experience. It was an interesting, just not the one I was kind of hoping to have. And I think that's always a kind of like a weird bit of disappointment with psychedelics, is that sometimes you gear yourself up for like a really big, huge, bombastic visual experience, and sometimes it just doesn't deliver. And then you sat there kind of like, you've had all this worry and stress and like you've adrenaline building yourself up for this thing, and then it just doesn't happen. You're kind of like, okay, that was that, I guess. So, but that's kind of like part of the course. I've had that same experience with ayahuasca. Sometimes, when I've been on retreat in Peru, you fly halfway around the world, you sit there in in this temple, and you're all geared up for just this, possibly the worst night of your life, and then you drink this stuff and kind of nothing happens sometimes. That's just how it goes. So, well, I'm going to try it again, and I'll let you guys know how that works out. So let's do a question here from here. What stage of your life did you decide to do psychedelics? Yeah, good question, mate. So there was 2 stages when I did it. The first one, as I said, was when I was a teenager, and it was I got hold of some LSD, and I did it with my friends, and I thought it was. Actually, the first time I did LSD, I had first a good experience, but then I had a run-in with my parents, and it turned into a sort of a nightmarish experience. But for whatever reason, I decided to do it again. And after, I just had a lot of fun with LSD. I think I recognized quite early on that there was a potential dark side to it, and that it could go another way. But I never really had any truly super bad experiences with LSD. And then as I got older, I got into like going to nightclubs and stuff like that, and I got more into MDMA, and that was really became my kind of substance of choice for a few years. And then I had this big break, particularly from psychedelics, where I think it was just, they just didn't seem to be available where I lived for a long time, and I wasn't that interested in doing them anyway. And then, it was 4 or 5 years ago, after listening to guys like Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell, and there seemed to be this kind of re-emergence in the psychedelic conversation that started, I think, about 5 years ago. I think maybe part of it is to do with just the emergence and dominance of YouTube, and that there's all this stuff, things like Terence McKenna videos. I'd never heard of Terence McKenna, and then now thanks to YouTube, it's just it's something that anybody can access. And so I don't know how you would have been able to get that content, say 10 years ago when I was younger, or in my 30s or whatever. So yeah, I think YouTube has done a lot to spread the awareness of these things. And what happened with my sort of getting back into these things was around about the same time both me and my brother had heard about DMT on Joe Rogan, and we both thought we knew knew our stuff in terms of altered states of consciousness. And so when we heard about you talk to aliens and it's the freakiest thing ever, we were like, yeah, shut up, we know what's going on, we can handle anything. So I arranged with my brother that we'd get some DMT, and I got it first, and so I was trying it first just to sort of work out how to smoke it. And yeah, it completely blew my mind, and I was at that point, I guess that I didn't realize it at the time, but that was starting me down this kind of spiritual path. It's what led me. I mean, after I had that experience with DMT, I was like, I want to explore more of this. Whatever's just happened, if there's a way to sort of have a longer experience, a longer time within this other dimension or whatever it is, then I want to do that. And that's what led me to ayahuasca, in that I wanted to just explore this place more, rather than this kind of crazy roller coaster, have something where I could explore it more. So after doing some smoke DMT, and there was a period where I was smoking DMT quite a lot, probably, well, not a huge amount, but I'd say I was smoking a couple of times a weekend. And then after that, I tried a bit of ayahuasca. So it's basically you're kind of making your own ayahuasca analog. And basically that's, you're orally activating DMT. You take an MAOI inhibitor, and then you just take a capsule with some DMT in it. And yeah, you have a ayahuasca-esque experience. It's definitely not the same as regular ayahuasca. In fact, I would say it's pretty different. But there are some similarities there. And I did that a few times, and then I thought, okay, I want to try the real thing now. And that led me to go into a couple of ceremonies locally here. And then eventually I thought, right, let's try this in Peru. So yeah, I mean, DMT was like the stepping stone for me getting back into it in my sort of late 30s. Terence McKenna, sadly missed. Would love to hear his commentary on today's society. So much his predictions on the future have come to pass. Yeah, for sure. I think Terence McKenna was just so far ahead of his time. It's crazy. I mean, obviously all the stuff he says about psychedelics is, I think the main thing is he's just got this poetry, this amazing capability for language, just finding the right words. And the other thing is he's just an amazing storyteller. I think that's what you don't necessarily pick up on when you listen to Terence. He sounds almost like this kind of nerdy scientist, but he's actually just an amazing storyteller. He really lulls you in with this language and this poetic phrasing. And yeah, it's sort of it can really sell the experience without sounding like just some sort of drug crazed lunatic. He's just a great storyteller. And I think that the things where I find interesting that he says, as well as his descriptions of all the DMT stuff, was also just how he anticipated a lot of where technology was going. He did a lot of, he was like one of the early pioneers in the sort of VR space and virtual reality space. And he saw the potential in this, that this like VR technology could become in itself like a psychedelic experience. This could be there is another kind of almost like state of consciousness within the VR space. And having tried VR myself, I've got a VR headset back there. And I've had some amazing VR experiences. And I believe, there's some kind of fusion between sort of like consciousness and technology. I think there seems to be something, I don't know, something there, or some untapped potential within this VR stuff. And Terence McKenna was right at the beginning of that. You can go on YouTube and find some videos of him sort of, testing very early blocky VR equipment, but still seeing the potential with it. And I just a great guy. I mean, it's tragic that he died. I was lucky enough to be able to attend and to meet a conference with his brother Dennis, and I think Dennis McKenna himself is a great guy, but Terence was just something else in terms of storytelling, and I think he's sorely missed. I think he would really have something to say about what's going on at the moment, this reemergence and this expansion of psychedelics and the legalization and stuff that's coming with it. So yeah, sorely missed. But I'm just glad that we do have the stuff that we have from him. I mean, like I said, all the videos that we have of him on YouTube, that's amazing. It's amazing that there was somebody somewhere videoed these things and uploaded them. So it's like people like us who maybe weren't aware of him in the day can get something from him. Another question: what experience was more intense, DMT or ayahuasca? That would depend on how you define intense. So I would say in terms of pure psychedelia and just like visionary intensity, smoked DMT is much stronger. It's not only it's stronger. The visions are very vivid, and it's faster. It's very the roller coaster analogy is very good. It's very like you're just strapped in, like going for it. Ayahuasca's is a lot more sort of slower. That you get the same sort of, I think, clarity of visions. But it's certainly it's slower paced, so it feels a bit more like you can navigate it. But there's a different kind of intensity with ayahuasca, and the intensity of ayahuasca comes from the body load. You feel this kind of head. They call it the mariachion. So there's like a dizziness that comes with it, so that can be kind of fairly unpleasant. Then there's the vomiting and the shitting yourself that can come. So there's this kind of bodily discomfort that can come with it. But once you get past that, it's usually once you've thrown up and once you get past the initial sort of come up, then ayahuasca I think is a lot less visually intense than DMT. But I would say as an overall experience, I think ayahuasca is it's physically intense. I think that's the way I'd describe it. McKenna kept the psychedelic conversation going through the 80s and 90s when it wasn't fashionable. Yeah, I mean, I think not only was it not fashionable, it was, there was very little kind of, so there's no like fame and fortune to be got from it. I think it comes across that he was doing this purely from a love of doing it and purely from a love of communicating with other people about these substances, which he saw as transformative. And there was no, like I said, there was no YouTube, there's no TV, nobody was going to invite him onto TV to talk about these kind of things. So again, it's fairly miraculous that in this time of like sort of prohibition and taboo, that there is so much footage and that he managed to do what he does and that he did so without really looking for much of a financial incentive. At least that's how it appears to me. So again, McKenna, awesome guy. Hey guys, hey Mike, hi Melissa. Maybe a combination of psychedelics and VR is the way of the future. That thought has occurred to me, WBC85. I'm not sure what that would look like. In fact, one of my actually, one of my friends brought a VR thing around to my apartment a couple of weeks ago. So my VR setup is it's a PlayStation one, so it's kind of quite chunky. It's got the cables coming out the back. But my friend, he bought one of the new Oculus ones around, which is completely wireless. So you kind of walk around and you map out your space, and then you put this thing on. It's completely wireless, and that changes the experience entirely. So I thought about, what would psychedelics be like with my headset, and it would be too clunky because of the wires. But with this new one on, yeah, you could have some really, I think, interesting experiences. And there's, I was listening to a podcast with a guy called Duncan Trussell, and he did a podcast with the guy who created the TV show Adventure Time. I don't know if you guys have seen Adventure Time. If you haven't, go and check it out. It's like the best cartoon ever. I love Adventure Time. But the creator of Adventure Time, whose name I forget now, they're both kind of into psychedelics and they're into VR. And he was talking about some really trippy experiences within the VR space of this. There's this VR program where you make noises and it creates VR graphics from the noises that you make. So as you kind of sing into it, you're like, oh, yeah, and it's the headset will make visuals based on your noises. And he says he hit this certain tone, like a sort of or something, some kind of specific tone, and this face just appeared to him and seemed to be like kind of communicating with him from another dimension. And he's never been able to recreate this tone, and he says it really kind of freaked him out. So I think that there's definitely some interesting experiences to have within sort of technology, and I think technology is something we're going to have to get our heads around as a species, as psychonauts, as conscious beings. There's a lot of stuff that's coming, like artificial intelligence is coming, gene editing, the ability to rewrite our DNA, that's coming. So, it could be possible that we could like gene edit ourselves to be able to instantly go into altered states of consciousness, or when we talk about like androgynous DMT and stuff like that, or instantly going into dream states. This could be something that's becomes very real, and we as a species are going to have to get our heads around how this works. How do we exist as a species when there is godlike AI? How do we exist as a species when we're no longer one species? When if I rewrite my DNA, am I still human? If I'm we could end up as brains in jars. There's all sorts of crazy sort of shit. So, technology, I think, is. I'm a technology optimist, but it's something we're definitely going to have to get our heads around. And I think incorporating that into the psychedelic space is something I would certainly be interested in. I don't know if someone. I can only imagine that as psychedelics become more legal and retreat centers become more commonplace, someone's going to do something like that. Someone's going to open some kind of, retreat which incorporates technology somehow. But or maybe I should try it here and let you guys know how that goes. Anyway. Question: is it possible while K-holing to feel or even see the DMT world? It happened to me twice. Okay, the K-hole, ketamine. Okay, so I have had some experiences with ketamine, and they're not my favorite experiences at all. The last time I had ketamine, and which is kind of like the last time that ever made me, I'm like, I don't particularly want to touch this stuff again. I had basically I ended just like collapsed on the floor, just completely zoned out. I think I was like throwing up. It wasn't a pleasant experience. So I don't think I really have like much fond things to say about like ketamine or the K-hole. I do appreciate that some people are getting, I know it's been useful like for treating depression, and some people are getting some real benefits from it. I've been on retreat with some guys who like really are big advocates for ketamine. But me personally, for that sort of exploration, I never got anything from it. And I don't think I'd want to go there again. But I will say that when I was in those experiences, there is definitely a very deep sort of psychedelic experience in that I was seeing some insane stuff within there. I didn't feel like I was getting any benefit from it. It was just weird and sort of disassociative. But yeah, it works for some people, so it's fair enough. The drugs of the future will look more like computers. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think this is the technology thing. It's I can only imagine. I mean, I think there is something that's being worked on. I remember some press release from Elon Musk talking about some kind of brain mesh where they're going to basically some sort of like electrode thing that they're going to implant into people's skulls. And as soon as that happens, and I think this is like inevitable, as soon as you get to the point where there is something that is implanted into your head, and we have this, an interface with machines, then the sort of the leap to being able to just like input a psychedelic state seemed like a very obvious state to me. I mean, there's so many videos on YouTube or so many programs that you can get where, things are creating visuals. I mean, I use a lot of these things myself. If you guys have seen like some of the trip report videos that I do, but there's a lot of, graphics and stuff in there, a lot of visuals where, computer generated, visual imagery, and it's very pleasant to watch. I mean, when you see like a good, like Mandelbrot set or a good CGI representation of tripping, then it's kind of it's kind of compulsive viewing. You're like, wow, that's really it. You see like, whoa, this guy really nailed it. And I'm always impressed with that when you get like some artist or like particularly a CGI artist who's managed to not only when you have one of the experiences and then bring enough of it back to be able to model it in some sort of piece of software. Yeah, I also think that's impressive. There's a guy, just to give a few shout outs to, because this is some of the visuals that I've used in my stuff. So there's one guy called Beeple, and I've used some of his visuals. And what's the other guy called? TAS Visuals, TAS Visuals. His stuff's amazing. He does a lot of VJing stuff at psychedelic music festivals. And if you go on YouTube and look for TAS Visuals, then yeah, his stuff is just superb and vibrant and just interesting to watch. I could watch it pretty much forever. So once you have that with that instead of watching it on YouTube, you can have it sort of directly input into your brain. Yeah, of course people are going to do that. I would definitely do that. I mean, I do think it's one of the things where when I'm doing psychedelics, I think I do chase these visions a bit. I like, when I have an experience, I do like it to be visual. I like it to be, because it's just awesome. I like to it be very vivid and very sort of colorful. And sometimes you don't always get those kind of visuals. And I can get a bit like the experience I talked about on Friday night. So if it doesn't happen, be kind of I get a bit bummed out. So yeah, if there's a program, piece of software which delivers that on tap, I would be up for it for sure. Dopamine hits from interacting with phones. Yeah, I mean, that's like the sort of almost like a weird downside to technology. So I mean, I'm going through a period at the moment where I think I'm using my phone far too much. But I think part of it is it goes hand in hand with this YouTube stuff, because I get like a lot more messages than what I used to. People commenting on my videos, and so I reply back to them. So my phone's buzzing and beeping a lot more than it used to. And so, yeah, I'm picking it up and I'm answering these things. And then you do get this dopamine hit from it. And dopamine, I think, is a weird thing because it's compulsive. But I don't think it's entirely pleasant. It's like there's a thing where you just kind of itching to pick up your phone, and you like do it, and then once you do it, you're like, it doesn't scratch that itch, and you don't feel sort of satisfied from it. So I think I'm going to have to be kind of strict with myself and implement a sort of like I'm thinking of like when I get home from work and like put my phone down and make sure I don't have like a sort of an amnesty point, which I think is something. Yeah, I think it's having like a no electronics thing is probably something we should all do a bit more. I think I don't like these sort of pictures. If you're in like a restaurant or something, everyone's just on the phones. It's sort of that's to me like technology almost going the wrong way. And I don't like. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like it within myself. So I'm going to try and come away from it. So I mentioned at the beginning about talking about what I was going to do with any donations that people sent to the channel, and I mentioned this because I just talked about 2 visual artists. So what I want to do with anybody, first of all, anybody who donates to the channel, thanks a lot. That's really kind of you. I want to be sort of transparent about what I would do with any sort of money, because first of all, I've been clear that what I do is a hobby, and I don't want to sort of make out to anyone or give anyone the impression that I need donations to go on retreats, or I need donations to pay for me to do the things that I'm doing for this channel, because that's not the case. I do it anyway, and so I wanted to be sort of clear about that. So that would sort of lend to the question, then what am I going to do with, if anybody does want to financially support the channel, what am I going to do with it? And so, the thing I want to do is I want to do something where it adds benefit to the channel, but also adds benefits. I'll sort of explain a bit. So I mentioned 2 visual artists, Beeple and Task Visuals, and there's another guy called Hypnagoguist who makes CGI sort of visuals. And I'm going to do more of these kind of trip report things, which incorporate sort of CGI visuals and stuff like that. So I thought, at the moment, I'm just picking up sort of stuff off YouTube and picking up sort of free things here and there. But I want to buy some like graphics packs from these guys, which will give them credit for the work that they've done, and it would also sort of do something for the channel. So that's I'll just sort of throw that in there. Like, that's what I would be doing with any sort of donations. Question there. I would like. Where are you based at the moment? Yeah, I'm based in. I live in Switzerland at the moment. I'm originally from the UK, but I live in Switzerland. I've been here for about nearly 5.5 years now. I would like to extend the mushroom trip with an MAOI. Do you eat the recommended diet? Yeah, for sure. So that's from Mr. WBC 85. Yeah, if you're going to do MAO inhibitors, then you need to be careful with your diet, because it's basically it's the same as with ayahuasca. You're taking something which is inhibiting how your body reabsorbs serotonin. So there's a few foods that you would have to avoid here. Just like when you do ayahuasca, you have a diet that you do leading up to it. Some of the stuff that they tell you to do on the diet is because of, I'd say, sort of traditional or religious reasons. But some of the stuff they recommend is because it's dangerous, and that if foods contain these certain substances, and that while you're inhibited, these substances can cause like extremely painful headaches or sort of nausea, or in some extreme cases, which I think is more that if you're also taking things like antidepressants, I think they've led to a few cases of death. So certainly, if you plan on doing a mushroom trip with MAOIs, then you need to be careful with the diet. And I would just say, go and look up the ayahuasca diet and pretty much follow that for a few days before and a few days after. I'd say the ayahuasca diet is a bit sort of stricter because it, as I say, there's a lot of stuff in there's a lot of that they make taboo, which I think doesn't need to be. There's some stuff which, although it's not going to kill you, it sort of can just go straight through you. So if you've been on an ayahuasca retreat and you've been drinking sort of ayahuasca 4 times a week, when you come out of that retreat, if you then start eating your normal food straight away, it's not going to kill you, but it just goes straight through you. I mean, if you come off an ayahuasca retreat and then go to a curry house, man, you're in for a rough night of shitting. It's just your ass will just be absolutely on fire. So the I'd say if you're going to do the MOI stuff, just definitely check that out just to be safe. But good luck with it, mate. I've never done it myself. As I mentioned, I have done things like ayahuasca where you take an MAOI and then you take something like free-based DMT. And the MAOI I did for that was Syrian rue, which is disgusting. I mean, like, people say ayahuasca is foul and disgusting, but honestly, Syrian rue, Syrian rue is like these seeds, and you take, if I remember right, it was about 3.5 grams of seeds. Smash them up a bit with a rolling pin, put it in a pan, boil it with some water. You boil it for like, I can't remember. I think it was about an hour, and it just stinks. It stinks foul. It's not like ayahuasca. It has this bitter smell and this bitter taste to it. Syrian rue just smells like absolute sewage water. Just it's foul, and you condense it down to, like, I had like half a cupful of this stuff I was going to drink, and oh god, yeah, I can feel my just thinking about it. Actually, it makes me, like, I can feel it, the gorge rising in my throat. So I would guess that's probably maybe the MOI that you're talking about, because that's the most common one. And if that's one you're doing, mate, good luck with it. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. Okay, has anyone got any more questions? Nope. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff I've got planned in for next year. One thing that has sort of come to my not come to my attention, but sort of floated up to the sort of top of my consciousness recently is Salvia divinorum. Now, salvia is something I've never tried before, and I've watched a few videos recently on YouTube that sort of piqued my interest. And I always thought with salvia that it would be something I would eventually get around to trying. And, you know, I've seen some of these videos on YouTube where, like, people just have, like, absolutely seemingly horrific experiences. But I've seen some where people talk about that there's a lot of benefit to salvia. So I thought this was something I should investigate at least once. So I'm probably going to try that at some point. I'll try and get hold of it from somewhere, because it used to be very easy to get hold of salvia, and I don't think that's the case anymore. But before I do that, I was going to try and talk to another YouTuber who's very experienced with salvia. A guy called Kenny Denight, who does a channel called the Denight Dimension. So I reached out to Kenny. He's not come back to me yet, but I wanted to sort of talk to him about, like, sort of what's a good setting. So if anyone's got any experience with salvia divinorum, then get in touch and let me know what where a good place to start with it. You know, there's all like 5 times and 10 times and 30. I'm not sure what's a good place to start with it, but that's something I'm going to try and do. Milan Dirk says, "Oh no, you and Dr. James Cook are live streaming at the same time." Yeah, I think it's kind of an unfortunate collision. James is he's doing live streams every week now, and it wasn't intentional, certainly, to live stream at the same time as him. It was just, I scheduled it at this time because I wanted to do it late enough in the evening so that it gives people, if anyone's watching from America, it's like a better time for them to be able to watch. And obviously it's okay for the people in Europe. And it just so happened it was the same time as James. But yeah, it's definitely unfortunate, because I like watching James's stuff. I was watching his first live stream last week, and James is a great guy. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually going to be on retreat with James in about 6 weeks. We're both going to be at Ayahuasca Spirits together. So maybe we'll do a live stream at the same time, or maybe I'm sure we'll have some sort of conversation about it anyway, about his experiences with ayahuasca. So I'm kind of looking forward to meeting him in person. And hopefully we'll have some interesting chats, and we'll be able to share it with you guys. I suppose it was one thing I thought about, like doing sort of like a live stream from that retreat, because you kind of then very hopeful that retreat leaves you very positive and bubbly, so that you can I can talk about it like I'm talking to you guys now. The other possibility is that this retreat absolutely shatters you and you've had some sort of introspective nightmare and you're kind of like, hi guys, welcome to the live stream. You know, you're just fucking mentally broken. But we'll see how it turns out. Well, I don't know. The other thing is like maybe, you know, when you're on retreat, is it a bit vulgar to be doing a live stream? Should we be more focused on what's going on? Anyway, we'll work it out. We'll work out the details. I bought 5 MEO DMT in a smart shop in Netherlands. I have the 5. Any advice? Yeah, I mean, just, hey, Lewis, it's the same advice I'd say for just regular DMT. Have a space where you are not going to be disturbed. 5 MEO DMT is, yeah, I mean, it's just as potent and powerful as regular DMT, and it's a kind of a different experience. It can much more, I'd say, psychologically shake you in a good way. I've certainly seen some people like come out of it like, I think there's more possibility to be shaken by 5 MEO DMT than there is an NDMT. Most people, I think, come out of an NDMT like thinking it's awesome. I think people come out of like 5 MEO like, whoa, I'm gonna have to, process that. So get a space, get a sitter, and just, make sure you're in a good frame of mind going into it. Set yourself an intention and just go for it, mate. And I hope it goes well for you. But yeah, definitely you want a space where you can sort of, manage your surroundings and have somebody with you to help you with that. And good luck with it, mate. Lewis says again, I took salvia. Do it in nature with a trip sitter. Just use a light dose. Wait about at least 15 to 20 minutes before next hit. Yeah, cheers to that, Lewis. I suppose my main question there would be, what's like a good place to start? Like 5 times, 10 times, 30 times. I'm guessing this refers to how strong it is, but like if for someone who's looking for like, let's say someone who's like an experienced psychonaut, like where would be a good place to start with that? So if you want to like just stick in the chat what you'd recommend as a good starter, that would be kind of useful. For anyone who wants to look up for Cosmic Kitchen Smart Shop, they have it all. Yeah, I figured that's I'll probably, when I do some traveling, I travel to other countries quite a bit with work. So, I find myself in Spain or Amsterdam or just any, I travel around Europe quite a bit. So I'm usually somewhere where I can find like a smart shop and I'll pick some up from there. But yeah, when I actually get around to doing this salvia experience, I'll let you guys know. And I don't know whether it's something I will sort of. Actually, I probably will like video it live, like I did do with some of my DMT experiences. And yeah, I'll let you guys know how it gets on. Also, I mean, it's been a while since I smoked DMT. I have felt like a bit of a calling back to doing that again. So yeah, there's a few things I'm looking to sort of get back into. This year has really just been about ayahuasca. I mean, even mushrooms, the mushrooms I did on Friday, I think were the first mushrooms I've done this year. And it's just been because I did 3 retreats this year, 3 ayahuasca retreats. So for most of the year, I've been like dieting. And when you're dieting for ayahuasca, then part of the prohibition is don't do any other substances. So it's like I've either been going into an ayahuasca retreat or coming out of an ayahuasca retreat and been on like an integration sort of process, or then going back into another, so I've just not got around to doing a lot of stuff this year. But yeah, sort of next year, I think I want to sort of do some more exploration with DMT, with salvia, and yeah, and certainly with mushrooms, I'm going to try this 5-gram thing again. So what's the recommendation here? 20x is okay. Your experience is 20x sounds like a lot, Lewis. Are you sure? You're not just, is that not a lot? 20x, like what about the 5? I mean, I'll tell you, I watched a video of this guy on 5, and this guy was like a very experienced like salvia user, and he was on 5 and he was like, oh my god, salvia is fucking crazy. Like he was like gone off 5. So I hope you're not setting me up there, Lewis. maybe 10. What about 10? Somewhere in the middle? Because the kitchen, they have 5 MEO and psilocybin analog. Oh, this cosmic kitchen. Whereabouts is that based? Which country is that based in, Lewis? But as for like NN-DMT, I'd be surprised if there was a head shop that sells NN-DMT. Unless it was in, like, I don't know, I guess like Portugal or something might be able to get away with it. But yeah, certainly any of the head shops I've been in, I've never seen NN-DMT for sale. Okay. I mean, if there's any more questions from you guys, just post it out. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. So I'll just, a couple of things. The next live stream I do, I think I'm going to do, yeah, I'll do one in early January. And then, as I mentioned, I'm probably going to do another one from the retreat. So I think what I was thinking of is, yes, seeing if I could get the shaman in on one of these live streams. So the shaman there, Wheeler, I'm not guaranteeing this is what's going to happen because I've got to propose this to him yet, but I think he'd be up for it. So yeah, if there's any of you guys who have a question that you'd want to put directly to a shaman, to an ayahuasca shaman, then I think there might be a possibility for doing that in January. If not, then you can just post the questions in my subreddit, and I'll ask them to him straight, and I'll do a video about what he says about them. It is a little bit tricky to do things like live streams with shamans because they're Peruvian. They don't speak English, so you have to go through a translator, which slows things down a bit, makes the video a little bit slower. But I thought it would be sort of interesting to be able to, for you guys to be able to do it live. So yeah, that's a possibility. And yeah, as I mentioned, I'm going to be posting another video sometime this week. I feel like I've been a little bit slow with my videos this last month. I've just been really busy with work, so I've not had as much chance to do some editing. But over the Christmas period, I've got like a couple of weeks off, so I'm going to really sort of try and get like quite a few more videos out, at least one a week, and maybe a couple over the Christmas period. So, okay, guys, I will wrap this up now. I just want to say thanks to you all for watching. Thanks for everyone who submitted a question. You know, I really appreciate you guys. And as I mentioned, if you've got any questions or you want to contact me in the meantime, there's an email link, which in my About section on the in the channel banner, there's my subreddit, where you can sort of post a question and I'll answer it. Or you can also direct message me through Reddit as well. Okay, I think I'll wrap it up there. Cheers, guys. Love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye, dudes.